morning. We are here with Alexander Schabert, which is the co-founder and CCO of ViriCiti, which is one of the partners of our Sustainable Bus Tour 2021. Alexander, I would leave to you a quick introduction, a quick picture of your company.
Thank you very much, Ricardo, for having me here today. Quick introduction about ourselves. We have started back in 2012 with a focus of electric vehicle telematics. So our primarily focus is on monitoring electric buses. And over the years, we've identified that just the bus is one side of the coin. The other coin is the charging infrastructure. So the second product portfolio that we've set up is charging station monitoring and smart charging solutions. So like that, having the information of the vehicles as well as of the charging stations, and combining these data sources and doing smart things like, for example, smart charging with it. We have grown to now about 60 employees. We're active all over Europe and over the US. And we're right now equipped to about 3,200 electric buses and about 1,200 charging points.
In your opinion, what should operators consider when they are approaching to a growth of their eboost fleets that has consequences on the depot infrastructure or the infrastructure as a whole?
I think there are three important points. The first one is vehicle data. To fully understand what the electrification of a complete depot means, you need to understand what are the energy consumptions of vehicles on specific routes. So collecting all this information about energy consumption of vehicles on specific routes is crucial. The second part is thinking of how the electrification can work out in a depot, meaning how much power do you actually need? And the earlier you think also of how software can help you, the more cost you can save, because there are two crucial costs. The first one is investment costs. So for example, do I need to buy 3 transformators or 2 transformators? And if software can already help you during the operational side to reduce your power peak significantly, then perhaps you do not need to purchase 3 transformators, but only 2. The second financial impact is then on the operational side, when we talk about the power peaks and how we can reduce them. So spreading out the charging over such a long time frame as possible, taking into account which vehicle needs to leave the depot, and like this also optimize the charging. That's going to be key, and that's where smart charging solutions are really crucial. So taking care of thinking of what for a software system you want to purchase, what for functionalities they should have, I think is really key. And then the third point, I already mentioned it, you need to have a good understanding of when does a vehicle, for example, come back to the depot, when does a vehicle need to leave again. So I would now call that integration with other IT systems, for example, a depot management system, where you do the dispatching of the vehicles, so that this information is combined with the energy information you have in the smart charging system. And like this, you can really make sure that every vehicle is charged on time with sufficient energy.
So may you mention which are the standards which are being developed concerning depot electrification?
Yeah, there are a couple of standards. So if we first look at the vehicle side, there's right now a German initiative. It's called the VDV 238. And this focuses on what for vehicle data should be available from no matter which vehicle manufacturer. It's kind of like an FMS standard, just really focused on electric vehicles. That's really crucial. The same at the charging infrastructure is the OCPP, the Open Charge Point Protocol, to make sure that you can connect charging stations of different brands and that you can also read them out as well as controlling them in a similar manner. And then when it comes to integration with other IT systems, there are 2 standards that we right now see developing in Germany. That is the VDV 261, that is focusing on preconditioning. So then making sure that the vehicles are preheated or pre-cooled before their service whilst they're still connected to a charging station. And the VDV 463, which is focusing between a communication between a charging management system and a depot management system, to make sure that these different data sets that we talked about beforehand are properly exchanged.
Thank you. And in your opinion, where do you see the future of depot electrification?
I think key will be really to make it as smart as possible. So connecting different data sources making sure that data is available in real time and that you can also react on it in real time will significantly help. So I believe these different standards that are currently being developed are a right way forward to integrate different assets, vehicles and charging stations, as well as different IT systems, and then really making sure that these systems have the intelligence to react whenever something is going on. So for example, a transformer falls out, certain charging stations cannot charge in the planned way. There needs to be directly an alternative plan. Perhaps it has an impact on when you want to have a vehicle leave a depot. So then it directly needs to communicate back with the depot management system to rethink of the dispatching of the vehicles. If a vehicle is in operation and he consumes much more energy than expected, and the vehicle comes back with a lower state of charge than forecasted, that directly again needs to be taken into account for such a smart charging algorithm. And that's right now really just within the ecosystem of the electric bus and what the fleet operators can directly influence. But now looking a bit long term, I see that a couple of other energy integrations can become interesting. On the one hand side, we have, for example, stationary batteries that can support in balancing out grid peaks. We have an alternative with demand response. If bus fleets are large enough, you can focus on perhaps interacting with the energy markets if you have enough capacity available. And that is then also where a smart charging system especially, needs to be capable of working with in the future. So more this interaction between charging and energy management.
Okay, so the data gathered by ViriCiti can offer an important observatory deck for e-bus performances and the evolution of this. May you be willing maybe to outline a few figures with regards to the average consumption and the impact of weather and driver behavior on the mileage? So to what extent you are seeing changes and improvements on this subject as technologies move ahead?
Yeah, energy consumption per kilometer or per mile is always an interesting one. And the truth about it is there is not just a single number. Just to give you an idea, we had 2 times exactly the same vehicle type being deployed in London at 2 completely different routes. One really high density inner city traffic, the other one more as a suburban bus route with also some parts on the highway. And what you saw there is, for example, an energy consumption difference per route by up to 50% with the same vehicle. Now, if you zoom further in and you really want to understand, okay, how much impact does the driver have, then it's important to only focus on the factors the driver can influence. And there, in our analysis, we've seen that a driver can easily make up to 25 to 30% of the energy consumption. And for diesel vehicles, you think of these eco-driving systems, but then they're really much more focused on saving costs. Whilst for electric buses, it's much more important to have such an eco-driving system to make sure that all drivers can more or less drive in a similar way to also hit consistent ranges. Because if you have 2 different drivers and they have 30% difference, the one driver drives 300 kilometers with the same bus, the other one 200. And that huge gap that needs to be closed, and eco-driving systems can significantly help. In regards to weather, that's also an interesting one. The biggest energy consumption is usually in the winter, because if you have -10, -20 degrees Celsius outside, you want to heat the bus up to 20 degrees, you have a delta of about 40 degrees Celsius you need to bridge. And especially if you only do this electrically, that can have a significant impact on the energy consumption. We see up to 40% of that energy consumption going then only towards heating. So we can have a bus, for example, that's driving very efficient during spring times when there's neither a need for air conditioning nor heating, with, let's say, about 0.8 kilowatt hours per kilometer. And that same bus in the deepest winter with, let's say, -15 degrees has 2.2 kilowatt hours per kilometer consumption. So there is always a big gap, and there's not just one number that says it all.
Okay, last topic, where people can find more information about ViriCiti. Maybe you will be willing to mention your channels and places where people can get familiar with the company, with the contents you're producing.
Definitely. So basically, we're always happy to directly speak with people. So please always reach out to us. Let's discuss your situation and let's see if we can help you, what we perhaps can recommend you, also based on our experiences we've done now with over 150 other operators that are working with us. Then we have our website. Our website also has an extensive knowledge center where we have a lot of webinars, a lot of white papers, and also other information material about ViriCiti available. And last but not least, it's always good to also follow us on LinkedIn, as we're nearly on a daily basis sharing interesting content about the e-bus industry.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexander.
Thank you very much, Ricardo, for the interview.